She adjusted to everything.
Yeah.
Has she heard from the NCAA? And what year will she be when she this year?
Yeah, Lisa.
Athletically.
Yeah, Lisa, our freshman from Russia, quite a journey getting a Russian into our country. But it happened, and so she's a true freshman and has adjusted really well. I mean, it's a kid who's never been to the United States. She came with one bag. Her parents have never been here. And she showed up 2 days after classes started, got here after midnight, went to an 8 a.m. math class, and is doing really well on the court and in the classroom. So some kids are just built different. She's one of them.
Courtney, you put up that obviously video kind of listing the checklist of the student visa and everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
But how did Lisa get on your radar? Like, when did she kind of come across you and your staffs?
Yeah.
Kind of take.
Yeah, they have FIBA has a bunch of tournaments throughout the summer, especially U20s, U18s, U16s, whether it's in Romania or Turkey or Portugal, and we've been really aggressive at making sure that we keep eyes on the international space, as well as the transfer portal, as well as the high school space. I feel like with the brand of Carolina, I owe that, right, to make sure that we've really scoured all of our bases. But yeah, the international, you start seeing them in those kind of major FIBA championships, and then the recruiting process begins.
How does that kind of reflect, sorry if I can follow, how does that kind of reflect, I guess, the trend in college basketball? Obviously, Elena, you got through the portal, but Tisa.
Yeah, but I recruited Elena from Finland directly, and what happened was we needed a point guard so bad, and I couldn't really wait any longer. And Grace Townsend, we took as a transfer, and so Elena was sort of made to be a Tar Heel, and finally took a circuitous route, but she's here. It just it allows you not to give yourself a border, quite frankly. Go get the best player who fits your needs. It fits in with what we've got. And they've been remarkably low maintenance and really grateful, and they come with a lot more basketball experience. They're not playing AAU and all of that. They're playing professional basketball, right? And that's really been fun to see.
Speaking of leaders, are talking over there about how awesome Carmichael is as an environment, and how much you love bringing the fans out. How valuable was having those 2 tournament games, or 3 tournament games, I guess, or 4, I guess, because there's a play-in.
Yeah.
Those 4 tournament games in Carmichael this past spring to build that fan base.
Yeah, I think also to have, the fact that the NCAA lets you host if you're a top 16 seed is an incredible reward for the fan bases that have invested in your program, right? Because that place, you couldn't get a ticket. It was literally jam full for all the games, and there's something different about a win or go home game, and that's so rare to have at home. And our fans just showed up, and I felt like we were giving back to a group that had really lifted us into this light. To this day, I've been coaching a long time. I coached a 30-0 team. I, won the Naismith National Coach of the Year, and having Alyssa jump on a scoreboard after going to a Sweet 16 after the career she had is got to be the top.
Were you worried about her knee at all when she did that?
You don't worry about Alyssa Usby. She's going to play. She's going to play no matter what when it gets to be February.
How will you play?
You want to go ahead?
I was saying, speaking of Alina, I guess you got her from UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see her fitting your needs and making an impact for you?
She is good. Now, Alina can hoop. Might be the best passer I've ever seen. I mean, she is an incredible passer. She's got, she can score at all 3 levels. She's played in pro, the EuroLeague, Euro Cup. I mean, she's played against pros, so she's very steady. She's reliable. She'll contribute to that great guard group and be really fun to watch.
With the influx of guards and wings, how will you play differently possibly than last season with all the depth? Will you be able to run more, you think, more up tempo?
It's hard to run more with Alyssa out because she's the best runner ever. But yeah, we'll be different. Our best 2 players last year consistently were our 2 posts, and neither one of them had 3-point range, right? So we had to make sure that they were always involved in the action, otherwise their defender would just sit. And so now our best players are actually at the perimeter spot, and so and our posts can actually shoot it, and they can really stretch it. So you'll have a little bit more space. There'll be more space for guards to attack in transition, where obviously there was more of a rim runner in the past. So every year, every coach is doing it, right? You're playing to the strengths of your best players, right? That's much better than fitting a system and getting kids that fit your system if they're not as good. I always want the best players, and I'll figure out how to play to their strengths. So we'll be different this year, and especially early because we're so young in terms of game experience. But we will play ultimately differently than we did last year.
That's good about what growth have you seen from Sierra and Blanca in the offseason with their games?
Yeah, well, Blanca's missed a lot of time. She's coming back from not a major deal, but she's just missed a lot of time. So she had a really good summer, but she hasn't practiced in a little bit. But for her, it's finishing. She's got so much better at just finishing because she's fitter, stronger, and then Sierra's just way more confident. She moves better. She's more confident. She has the ball in her hands more. I mean, posts, they come to you and they don't have the ball in their hands except to finish. And then it takes a little bit of time to get them going. So they'll just have a lot of opportunity. And they play it differently. They stretch it and they pass it and they facilitate offense more than be the finisher.
What has Blanca been dealing with?
Nothing that important. She's all right.
I'm curious from your standpoint. They had just asked some of the players about it, but just the having the UNC Duke game, ABC, kind of that prime time slot.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? And I guess how important is that, given that? And it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys aren't getting sort of the viewership incentive in terms of money back to y'all, say football.
Yeah.
What viewership is. So what does it mean to you guys?
It's brand value. I mean, if you're an athletic director at Duke or North Carolina, right, the brand value of having your women's team play on ABC is really valuable. And so it certainly validates the work you're putting in, both in terms of for your sport and for your school. That ABC is a window everybody's fighting for, and they gave it to you. And obviously the rivalry is really special nationally, but to be able to be a part of it at this time in women's basketball is really special.
Yeah, and just any reaction to, obviously only playing NC State once this year, just as you're kind of trying to, again, grow that fan base. Obviously people love the rivalry there.
I know, that's just an every year thing now. You get state every year. You either get, unless we can figure out a way to play in the non-conference, but you get them either your place or theirs. And that's just the nature of expansion, right? I'd rather play everybody at least once than play some teams twice and some teams not at all, right? So it's just the nature of it. Those decisions were made outside of, obviously, I have nothing to do with those, so we keep it rolling.
Alyssa was such a big leader. Who's stepping up?
I'll be honest, we just finished our second week of full practice. I think leadership, if done the right way, you have to sort of lead yourself, and we've got 2 newcomers on the transfer portal and 4 freshmen, and so that's 6 new guys that their voice matters. Who moves them, who mentors them, who leads them, and so for the returners to make those decisions without the newbies doesn't feel right. So we got to go through some stuff first so they see who leads through Hardwell, but certainly the game experience of Renaya, India, Nyla Harris, and it's hard not to know how much they're going to be important to our leadership. But I think we've got the E and Nyla Brooks and Talia, some of these younger guys, they bring so much to your team that they're leading too. They're just leading themselves and they're leading the barometer, maybe not with their game experience.
I think your top 3 scorers are gone from last year. Does that worry you at this point, or do you kind of look around the practice score and go, nah, we'll be fine?
No, I think I worry more about the rebounding, quite honestly, because there's not a better rebounder in program history than Alyssa Usby, right? And then you throw in Maria Gakdang out of it too. Those are late clock. You can throw it to them, something's going to happen, right? But the rebounding, the 5-year experience of her and Grace Townsend, the 4-year starting experience of Maria and Lexi, that's game pressure, which is why we're playing 3 Final Four teams from last year in the first month of the season. It's that we have to get as much game pressure and not worry about how many wins Courtney Banghart has. It doesn't matter. What matters is how much can I quickly get game pressure so that available players become reliable players so that we can be good in the ACC season. So I worry less about scoring with this team than I did last year's team, but we're going to have to make sure that we're as tough defensively and that we find a way to rebound.
How about the other transfer, Harris from Louisville? See her making an impact?
Oh yeah. She's got a ton of game experience in our league. She brings great passion and voice to what we're doing. she's Alyssa Usby-like in her mobility and versatility. It's hard to be Alyssa, but she's got a lot of the same attributes. And she was on that first page of that scouting report every year, and I'm so happy that she's not going to be on the Louisville scouting report, that she'll be on ours.
Courtney, speaking of the portal, you guys only had one outgoing transfer this offseason. How proud are you of that retention rate to be able to keep the nucleus of this roster intact?
Yeah, I think sometimes the transfer portal allows you to get excited about your team for like the 3 months that the transfer portal's alive. And I think you got to remember our job is still titled head coach, right? My job is to coach, mentor, teach. And so when a kid looks at me in the eye and says, I want to come, I want to play for you, and I want to wear Carolina, my job is to make sure they're developed, right? And so we trust our recruiting, whether it's through the portal or through high school, and we get them better. And their progression, I think, is really fun for our fans to see, and I think you'll see some of the progression of our talent from a year ago this year.
I know you don't put a lot of stock in the importance of who starts, but maybe 2 or 3, most people think will start. How do you think that's going to play out? How big will your rotation be, say, in a game against UCLA, somebody like that?
I don't know. I think the freshmen have shown an incredible talent. I mean, Nyla Brooks and Talia Henderson, Letisa, I mean, these are really good players that I get to see them in a game pressure environment. So it's really hard to say that. And then, of course, the experience pieces, there's reliability there, right? And so it depends on how we want to play. Do you want to be really big? Do you want to be smaller? Who are we playing? I think our lineup, more than in the past, will be based on our matchups. And maybe not, this is our same 5 every night. But it is not just coach speak. Like I've literally practiced for 2 weeks with them. And so there's just, with so many new faces that we expect to contribute, depends a little bit on how they remain consistent, where availability turns into reliability, and also where how we want to play against that opponent. Like you have to play UCLA with size.
Do you feel like you didn't get the same Renaya when she came back from the injury late in the season? It didn't seem like she was quite the same.
I think Renaya shouldn't necessarily have been playing, but you try sitting Renaya Kelly, like that's not going to happen, right? And so we got a lot considering what she was going through. Renaya is just a dog. Like, don't make me go into a big game without Renaya Kelly, right? And the fact that she was able to, what she and Alyssa were able to do after so much time off to beat Florida State in the tournament, and then what they were able to do to help us get to a Sweet 16 with, Renaya's been shut down since then. Like, we're not messing around with her, right? And so, I think it shows their spirit, and a lot's in there for her.
You're talking about developing freshmen. A player who came into your program who didn't go as she was expected is Kayla, and now she's retired, and she's on your staff. Tell us a little bit about what you've seen from her. Yeah. I mean, just the injuries after injuries, and now having her.
Thank you for asking. Yeah, so Kayla's had 70 surgeries, and after each one, she has a resilience, a grit, and a positivity to her that is unmatched, right? And it's funny, when I recruited her and I told her, hey, I'm gonna make you into the best version of yourself. It necessarily wasn't always me that made her the best version of herself, but this journey has. And she knows that, and she walks with confidence because she knows that what she's become is so much more than a basketball player, right? So much so that she's on our staff. If you come to practice and you didn't know anyone in the gym, you would think you wouldn't know she was a student. And she dresses like the coaches. She's not wearing her uniform anymore. Again, she's another kid I don't want to play a big game without. And luckily I have another year where I don't have to do that.
Obviously, you kind of broke out last year. You shot a high clip from 3. For you, now that she has a couple years under her belt, what do you kind of see that next step being for her? Obviously, being an experienced player and everything like that. What do you kind of see that next step?
Renaya, her freshman year, was really talented. We started her, but she was really reserved, right? And I always say this, the team plays to the personality of its leaders, and I needed her to show more of that. And this past year, not only did she shoot it at like 40, 90, 60, ridiculous, but she also was a great leader for this program. And so I need that to continue, right? I need that to continue. She's got to, obviously, certain layers of her game have to improve, but you're judged, the better you are, the more you're judged by how good your team is, right? And so how good can she get a team with 6 new pieces, graduated over 60% of their offensive and defensive productivity? How good can you get your team, right? I'm going to be right here with you, but that's going to be your legacy. And so I know she's excited about that, and she's taking it full on.
And I know you're only a couple weeks into this thing, but you have her, you have Elena. Knowing both of their games, how do you kind of see them? And I know obviously Elena's but knowing their games, how do you kind of see them, kind of splitting up some of those home balls?
Yeah, we just have way more guys that can actually create offense for other people, right? Last year it was Renaya, and then you had people that could score, right? But they couldn't necessarily create offense for other people. Now we have multiple people on the floor at one time, so the ball moves more, there's more weapons, you're playing out of closeouts, and so that was where we lacked offense last year. We just didn't have enough. If you really could stifle Renaya, we couldn't really make offense happen, right? And now we're going to be much harder to do that this year.
It feels like the ACC is pretty wide open this year. Like you have obviously a lot of good teams, but it doesn't feel like there's like necessarily a runaway favorite.
No.
What is it like coaching in a league where it is wide open and you have that opportunity?
Yeah, on the way up to this today, we were challenging ourselves. Could we name every school and the two teams the two players they brought? Right. Last year we would have gotten it, all of them probably. This year we didn't even get all the teams right. First of all, right, and then all the different players. There's a lot of good players that graduated from our league. A few also transferred. That's not the story, right? That's very few. Most of the talent graduated, or most of the people that left have graduated, and so it kind of goes like this a little bit, right, through graduation, and so there's a lot of teams that have a lot of opportunity being given to them because of the graduation of so much talent, and we're working hard to make sure that our guys realize that opportunity.
Coach Banghart.